the worst. I was just getting ready to go live, and then this giant spider came crawling up here, and I had to deal with that first. But hi, guys. Hi. Oh, goodness. Okay, I'm pretty much in my jammies doing this quick because I want to get some stuff off my mind. While I'm thinking about it, I have a blessed life, so I can sit here on my back porch at 9 a.m. on a Monday and quickly do this stuff before I have to get my day on the road. Hi, 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 hi. So before I tell you guys what I thought about PorcFest, I'm kind of curious to know what other people's impressions were. I would caution everyone or advise everyone, guide everyone, I'm not quite sure what the word is, to stop for a moment and maybe think about that, right? Think about, hey, what did you enjoy about PorcFest? What do you think someone could have done better? Did you like this decentralized model? What did you like about it? Etc. Etc. And the best way, to think about it, we will have some kind of wrap party. Where I would love to start is number one. Thank you to everyone who stepped up, to the doers who came out, who took the lead, who took initiative, who showed their growth mindset, who literally were like, yes, I'm going to step up. I'm going to do something. From the folks in the North Country, in Lancaster, doing North Fest, to down in Ware at the warehouse, the folks up at PorcFest and Errol. We had movie nights. We, of course, had massive amount of programming at the Quill. We had here in Manchester, which was kind of my headquarters for the weekend, and movies, state house tours. The Latitude Learning folks did a whole family day at Pawtuckaway Park. There was hikes, there were walks, there were little things, meetups, drinks. The Mises Institute did a healthcare thing. So there was a lot going on, and I can't wait to hear what your personal experience was. But as I was saying, first of all, to all the doers, thank you for stepping up, because that is what made this sort of epic, legendary, it's going to be legendary one day, brilliant, new, and highly scalable model possible, right? So it was real individuals. This is where the quantum physics is going to come in. So individuals acting as particles, basically individuals saying that, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And together, those particles, which are independent, localized in their own position, with their own momentum, doing things according to their own direction, where your impact as one alone, one particle is kind of like isolated and maybe a more discrete thing. When we kind of all do something together, we get to create this wave. So the movement I'm certainly working on and that I'm trying to build is lots of particles, lots of individuals actually working together in some kind of wave with some kind of momentum. And that wave is the wave of liberty. So I think that holds up with quantum physics. I should probably Google that at some stage. But what I loved most about this PorcFest, I think, was, besides sleeping in my own bed, that wasn't the worst, was this idea of it being so massively scalable. So the model that I suggested, right, was this sort of decentralized model where we let different regions step up. The thinking was, okay, for 22 years, we recreated PorcFest, the community, we scaled it down to one campground for this week-long experiment. And over the years, this PorcFest kind of became more of our family gathering, to be honest, than primarily a recruitment tool. So, it was thousands of us gathering, but many of us live here or are involved in the movement in some way. And we get certainly, hundreds of potential movers, but, we were sort of recreating the community in this tight geographic area. And with this scalable PorcFest model across the entire state, what we have done now is we're really just showing the community, right? We are just really showing what people are up to. So from man camp, where people learned how to harvest chickens, right? If we're going to be self-resilient and self-sufficient, these are the skills and the things you should know, and you should know a farmer, right? So I really, really, really like this decentralized model for various reasons. The one consistent thing I heard, and something I also kind of felt, was that, we didn't really have a heart uh, gathering, right? We didn't have that sort of one moment where all the tribes and all the regions and all the groups came together for something, as we would typically have done with a group photo or with a burning pork. Now, of course, they did burn the pork over at the warehouse. I'm really glad that tradition lived on. I like the idea of maybe even taking that and doing that as a standalone the weekend after or the Sunday or something, to create that heart sort of element. And I will talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But for me, PorcFest at the Quill, where I decided to just focus on localism, i.e., I was not I didn't have the bandwidth or the energetic will, I suppose, to go all over the state and to go support everyone else. I've been doing that for 21 years, and I made some choices in order to focus my energy and my bandwidth and my health and my priorities for this PorcFest. And so I contributed locally in my backyard, which of course is where the Quill is situated, my beautiful backyard over there. And so that worked really well for me this year. And I am hopeful the official organization will continue with this model because of that scalability. What do I mean by that? So we could easily next year start selling tickets early, make the tickets something, the amounts are split between the efforts that are done in different regions, or come up with some kind of formula for it, and then really help people experience New Hampshire and the community. So the feedback I got from some of the out-of-state movers were things like, this felt really like a vacation. I got to see all these different regions of New Hampshire. It's such a beautiful state. Oh, I really enjoyed this and that. That wasn't necessarily Free State or community related. The ice cream stands, or the fact that we still have farm stands that work on the honor system, or whatever it was. The quaintness, the adorableness, the je ne sais quoi, as they say, of what New Hampshire has to offer. So we could easily next year bring in 1,000 people to come do this. We could make it 2,000 people. We can make it 3,000, like we did at PorcFest, the 20th anniversary, that post-COVID year when everyone was ready to get out and everyone came and showed up. So I think if we sell tickets early enough and have a better sense of how to really corral the people through the state, maybe some of those ideas we floated before I stepped down, of a passport, some kind of monetary reward, making it, honestly, I turn it into a game and make it an app with a treasure hunt, and you can go around and you're like finding tokens, and I think there's a way to actually gamify this in a way that would be awesome, that would really appeal to a lot of our people. But then we probably need a paper version too, because sometimes we forget we are very techie forward. So that's definitely some of my initial ideas, right? But then I want to talk just a little bit before I jump off here about how the Free State movement itself is actually self-selecting, right? And I think we need to have a discussion about what it is self-selecting for. So by choosing the Free State movement and by choosing, i.e., intentionally setting your intention to move to New Hampshire, this is a mindset movement, right? And so when I look at what divides us rather than what unifies us, I'm struck that, in the olden days, back in my day, as we say, Free Staters definitionally transcended this left-right paradigm, right? So many people currently kind of seem to be caught up in this left right, my way is right, your way is wrong kind of thinking, which is a element of politics, right? And Free Staters actually transcended this nonsense, because that left right thing, the horseshoe theory as it's being called now, the woke left and the woke right, who kind of meet at the end there, are the problem. It is the trap. It is the trap of statism. And Free Staters transcended that trap by being like, we're smarter than the dumbasses who are caught up in this little race over here. And that is the movement I will continue to build. One where people have a growth mindset, people who understand it is your personal human action, it is how you show up in the world, and you don't get to hide behind other people's skirts or other people's work or anything like that. You are joining a tribe that at the top of this funnel, in my esteem, is, are you a person who can transcend the paradox of politics, which the trap is my way or the highway? And I posit we are a movement of people who understand live and let live. So we choose the live free or die state, but then we also choose to let people live and let live within the constraints of property rights, because this cultural war is a trap, and it is a stupid trap, and I wish people would stop stepping into it. So what I heard from potential movers, who the ones I met had come from Michigan, from California, from all these different places, Canada, overseas a couple. So there were people who were curious, and they did enjoy going to all these different communities, and then they were like, oh, it's a lot less dramatic than one might be led to believe online. But here is a part I do want to stand still with for a moment, because in a high trust society, which is what we are building, or which is what we should be building, because I want as little government as possible in my life, which means I, and you should too, want people of good character around you. Now, what is someone of good character? Because it seems like people are forgetting. I mean, there's so much of this left-right politics is based in collectivism, not in individualism. And again, we are particles. We are a movement of individuals that can do big things when we work together, right? So good character is a consistent pattern of moral excellence. It is it is about aligning coherently your thoughts, your words, your choices, and your deeds and actions, right? So that is how you embody good character, is when your words, thoughts, and deeds are aligned. So if you are a numbnut on the internet yelling dumb shit at people, think about it. I feel like now I'm a numbnut on the internet yelling dumb shit at people. So let me see if I could reframe that in a way that sounds better. It is important to be coherent in your philosophy. And if you are a truly transcended free stater, then your thoughts, words, and deeds should align, and your human action should reflect in your choices. So, what are the elements of a good character, right? So, they are all the things we know and love and do wrong, and we're flawed and all of that. But I think there are people in this movement now that are getting grace that don't deserve it, who are not reflecting good character, who are not showing up as decent partners, allies, aligned people, whatever, right? And so I want people watching this and people who come back to this later to try and understand the movement better. I want you to understand there are people of good character, and then there are those that are doing really fishy, shady things. And some people kind of seem swept up in that. And so this is me saying maybe you need to think about your choices yourself. So, elements of good character: integrity, courage, compassion and empathy, humility, responsibility, self-control or temperance, justice, and resilience and perseverance. And now I'm going to stand still with each of those just really quickly to give the Free State movement and to give individuals in the movement, the particles, the dots, some sense of what you should be striving for. Now, of course, we as humans are all flawed. No one's perfect, least of all me. I didn't even comb my hair, as you might see. And so of course no one's expecting everyone to be perfect every step of the way. But if you're dealing with people who do not have basic integrity, which is what? Integrity is wholeness. What is that? That is actually coherence, back to thoughts, words, and deeds aligning. So you're coherent, so you don't have cognitive dissonance. You're not literally saying one thing over here and something else over there. Or you have so internalized your trolling aspects that you don't realize that the words coming out of your mouth are like bumper sticker nuts, like borderline insane. And so integrity is wholeness, it is embodiment, it is like coherence. And I mean that actually in the wave particle sense as well. And it's honesty, right? So it is, again, it is when your words and your deeds align. So here's a question, someone a while back, just straight up said to me, "Hey, I won't listen to you because you're a woman," right? And afterwards, I was kind of like, what was I supposed to do with that? And I was like, well, maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe they were just trolling. But here's the thing: what is trolling? So, trolling is just a get out of jail free card created for antisocial behavior. And we as a movement should not be condoning it, because trolling is antisocial behavior that has now jumped from the digital space into my own personal life, into meat space. And people are going, oh, well, they're just trolling, they're just whatever. Now, instead of poo-pooing it, instead of pushing it out of the way, ask yourself, as a movement of individuals who want maximum liberty in their lives, should we be condoning antisocial behavior in a armed society with a lot of kids running around? And is it a good look for us? Now, I might say it is not. And so maybe people need to stand still with that. So integrity is wholeness and honesty, where your words and your actions are aligned, where your public and your private persona are the same. True good character is actually like, who are you when no one's watching, right? And We're all probably shady sometimes. Um, but if you're like consistently shady, if your persona or your authentic self is actually one that lacks integrity, then perhaps that is where the work lies. The other aspects of integrity that are important here is you should be keeping your promises. You should admit your mistakes, which is a thing that libertarians have a real problem with. And I'm going to teach a whole class on the art of apology one day. And stick to your principles. And for the folks who are like, yeah, but my authentic self is an asshole, I'm like, okay, but we're not building a movement of assholes, so that's where your work lies. All right, so that's integrity, right? This is one of the elements of good character. Here we go with courage. Courage is getting on this video and telling you guys what I really think, right? It's standing up for what you believe, I guess is the right verb there, is right, despite any fear or opposition or risk, right? So there's moral courage. And then there, of course, is physical courage, right? Like all of those of us who went to all the health freedom marches during COVID mania, that was both moral and physical courage. Compassion and empathy. So word on the street is empathy's on the outs. I'm not a fan of this thinking, because truly empathy and compassion is when you can recognize, i.e., understand the suffering of someone else and respond with kindness and fairness without being manipulated or descending into sentimentality. So there are some cautions around compassion and empathy, right? We don't need blind empathy, as Gad Sad is saying, and Elon is promoting everywhere, right? This new book called Suicidal Empathy. And that's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about us being capable of recognizing suffering and responding with kindness. That is not a personality flaw. That is a good character element. All right, responsibility. This is a big one in our community. A lot of people are doing really shady things, behaving gross. People I literally have chosen not to associate with, according to all the libertarian standards I can now, access. And I think we need some people to start owning up to the consequences of their choices. And that involves not making excuses, not blaming others, not evading your duties, and being like, yeah, actually, I'm the kind of person who gets, uh, you know, into beefs at parking lots here in Market Basket is an example, right? All right. What about humility as a element of good character? This is definitely a place where a lot of my personal ego work has taken place over maybe the last 5 years or so. It's a tough one. I think it's a tough one for a lot of libertarians because I think there is that don't tell me what to do thing. There's that I'm the smartest person in the room thing. There's that high IQ thing, which has become so dysregulated. It is laughable. And only a way people with high IQ and low empathy could have fucking figured out. But humility is the practice of rational self-assessment. So this is where you sit with yourself, and in the Stoic sense, you know thyself, and where you find yourself lacking, you make new choices in order to become a better, different you, right? It's not complicated. Now, 2017, Carla, before she stopped drinking alcohol, I knew I was inflamed. I knew I was unhealthy. I knew I needed to make choices, different choices. And I did it. I actually did that process of accurate self assessment. And I am working on finding that true balance, the golden mean between pride and humility and sort of degradation on the far end, right? So we should learn to better acknowledge our limitations. Many of you, me included, need to learn to take criticism better. Um, and to give credit where credit is due, and to try and, of course, avoid arrogance, right? Um, and I think the reason this particular one is so difficult, at least for me personally, is there's this dynamic, right? Whereas people will purposely belittle you, they will call it teasing. If you point out you don't like it, they might double down. The question then is this now teasing, or did this actually go over to bullying? And if you rationally self assess yourself to be like, I don't think I need to listen to this criticism, that is a hard one to unravel, right? Because learning to know whose opinion to value and whose opinion to not value, or to at least just not let it affect you, is a big one. It's a big one for us to learn. So, humility, come to the table if you have good character with accurate self assessment, identify where you have where you're lacking, and then go fix it, figure it out. Come to my classes at the Quill. Do what you got to do, right? All right, I got three more, and then we'll probably wrap this. So self-control or temperance. So this one we all understand is like mastery over your appetites, right? Over your emotions, right? Like that triggering we all get in certain scenarios. And so many of us are taught, when you get that feeling in your body, to suppress it. And here's the thing I've learned, how I've earned these gray, very uncombed hairs, is that cycle, that whatever welled up in your body, that's where you got to go figure some stuff out, right? So this is mastery over your impulses. It can be this sort of addiction loops, right? So whether it's sugar or potatoes or crack or like whatever it is, liberty, race realism, I don't know, whatever it's like your little that you can't do without, and we all have one. But it's also about tempering your impulses, right? Lust, greed, anger, laziness, right? And so much of what we encounter on the internet is designed to prime those, right? Lust, greed, anger, and laziness. That is literally what it is. The internet is built for now. It's built to dysregulate you, and it's your job to figure out, if you want to keep good character, how to mitigate, how to work with those things, how to act from reason rather than raw desire. All right, two more. Justice, right? So when I look at how they have managed to dysregulate magnitudes, just the scale of people that are, caught up in social media addiction, attention ensnarement. I'm just reacting to the literal word justice, right? I'm a lawyer by training, and I am aware that that word is now very triggering to people, either in the just us context, in the sort of legal context. We know that rule of law is pretty sketchy at this stage. But here I mean it in a voluntarist, in an individualized sort of sense, right? A sense of justice where you treat people according to merit without sort of favoritism or prejudice or corruption, right? So basically, equality under the law, I think, is kind of the concept there. But the law there isn't an abstract law, it is your law. It is what you as a sovereign human, you as king of your castle, me as queen of my castle, Castle Quill. Um, it is what you bring to the table. So are you bringing good character to the movement? And the people who are not, it behooves us as a movement to call them out, because if you have rot in the barrel, what happens? The whole barrel goes rotten. So last but not least is resilience or perseverance. And that is obviously like the grit to keep going even when hardship uh, faces you, or the grit to keep going with good character, even in the face of adversity. And I'm going to tell a little quick personal story, and then I'm going to end with a sentimental moment. But my great grandmother's family farm in South Africa. So now we're talking the turn of the 18th into 19th century. That farm was called Volharding, and Volharding translates to perseverance. So perseverance is in my blood, it is in my nature, it is in my epigenetics, it is in who I am as a human being who is striving every moment of every day to exemplify good character. And much like on the humility sort of spectrum, where I know a lot of my work lies, some of my work also lies on this sort of resilience, perseverance spectrum, because my sense of grit is overdeveloped. And so when I needed to make some decisions about the Free State movement and where I was spending my time and how I was dedicating my energy, and whether the feedback loops that are there, if you're giving your time and your life, your lifeblood, your life essence, your energy source to something that is not loving you back, and if you're doing it for free, that's the trade-off, right? I had to actually read a book called Quit in order to be like, okay, how do I take my grit, and when do I actually have to know when to quit? Now, I, of course, haven't quit the movement. I've just shifted my energy to different areas, more controllable areas, decentralized areas, hence this pivot for PorcFest. Because what is the point of decentralization? The point of decentralization is that we are building resilience, perseverance, grit against a single point of failure, right? So the enemies of liberty are starting to attack the Free Stater brand almost as hard as fucking Free Staters do it themselves, I might add. So we're working against a single point of failure. So it's resilience through real localism. So the thing I was really struck with PorcFest this year for me, and people's experiences will be different. I have been in this state now for almost 20 years. I moved in 2008, and I live half a mile from the Quill on a beautiful cul-de-sac with this beautiful black backyard where I'm currently sitting on my 3-season porch. Life is good. My week was kind of just my life in New Hampshire, right? I still woke up every morning and fed my chickens, traded walks with my husband for the dog. I had to cook for community meals. I had 20 people here for dinner as the launch party on the Sunday night before the time. So really, it was very much my actual life. What is the point? The point is that can be your actual life. If you intentionally decide to come grab this quality of living in New Hampshire, which is available in a incredible community, but also in an incredible state where if you have good character, your neighbors have good character, we should be good neighbors. Our neighbors should be good to us. Every Free Stater should know their neighbors, by the way. I'm fortunate that one is an actual Free Stater, and 3 others are softly aligned over the years of talking in a yard. Decentralization is also important for innovation and experimentation. So we tried new things this time, right? And I think we're going to learn some lessons. I think we're going to learn other things, but I think it was a good example in the idea of where the balance between competition, right? We decentralized. Now we got different people doing different things. Um, so people can experiment, we can compete. Like, for example, on Thursday night, I did my last soapbox idol. I came up with a model. I ran it for many years. I handed it off. That was a disaster. I took one back for this year just to do a small closed cycle. Maybe we'll release the video from that. They also had a soapbox idol up at Northfest, and I hope that went swimmingly. I can't wait. I hope it was recorded, and I hope Jefferson won again. So that is an example of competition, but also collaboration, right? Just being like, sure, do it. No one even asked. They just did it. Even better, right? Also with this decentralization comes adaptability, right? So we get to be like, okay, this worked. Next year we can be like, what works better? What about this? Who's going to step up? But here's the part I'm actually the most excited about, and it might be the thing that people don't recognize, but I want to give a real shout out to Brian Becker. So Becker moved here from California. He's he's a techie. He has been building DCNH, which is Decentralized New Hampshire. He and my husband are very aligned technology-wise. Certainly when I was head of the Free State Project, we did everything open source for the same reasons I believe in decentralization. We also are very interested in living our principles. So it is important to us, as it is to Brian, to sort of build the things that reflect our values. So the clever thing that we did this year that people may not fully appreciate, but I do, is that we were able to take the software we had built for Rogers Campground with the individualized sites where we could say, here's a hub, here's a hub, here's a hub. This is where this party's happening. This is where these guys are singing. This is where karaoke's happening. This is where you can learn to build a rocket, whatever it was, right? And we took that map and we scaled it to New Hampshire, and we made it interactive, meaning you are personally responsible for going to put the events on the calendar. And so we have built the framework for that decentralized model. We have also built a framework that we could use as a standalone decentralized platform for the movement, which I hope is kind of the vision there. I'll go have lunch with Brian at some stage. But we basically, back in 2010, 11, 12, we were all talking about this model of a decentralized PorcFest. And so it was fantastic to see it come to fruition. Next year for me, if we stick with this, I will be at the Quill. I may, if my mood is a little better, see if I can get around to different parts of the state. One of the criticisms I heard was, well, now this is a week we have to work. We don't get to hang at our family gathering. And I'm like, well, first, I've worked at every PorcFest for 20 years, so my bleeding motherfucking heart. Second of all, tough. We're building a movement. You're in it. You got to step up to the table. Many brilliant, great Free Staters did. I think we're going to see more of that. Now to my final point, because this became much longer than I expected, and I didn't get to all the points I wanted to. Of course, maybe the last one about decentralization is it fosters human flourishing, and human flourishing comes from trusting people in a society to have good character, which means a consistent pattern of moral excellence where your words and your deeds and your thoughts are aligned. So, what I missed for this PorcFest was that sort of heart, right? Like when we bring our energies together, where we, like, here's a good example. Actually, I had like an hour, and one of my friends I was like, let's go meditate in the park, right? And just like recentering yourself, spending that time with yourself. In the same way, that is very important to keep your wave function going right. It is, I believe, important to bring physical people together for that energetic thing. So that's the thing I missed the most for this year. 2 hacks is one. I do think we could do burning pork on a different day. Maybe next year someone will step forward and at least let a bunch of people camp together, and then we'll have these other decentralized things. Who knows? But per accident, but I also feel maybe Michael was smiling down at us on Sunday. So yesterday afternoon, we were able, many factions, many different tribes, many different vibes came together to celebrate in a heart event our friend Michael, who passed from cancer. He and his wife and children have been instrumental and deeply embedded in our family and our bigger family in our community for a very long time. He was a beautiful and kind and honorable man. He worked on right to try legislation with his dying breaths. He was still testifying to try and create legislation that would allow people to experiment in order not to die. And the fact that we have to ask our government for that is abhorrent to me, as I'm sure it was abhorrent to him. But he fought and fought and fought for 4 years. He stayed with us and he contributed every moment he could in that time. And so it was an honor to be able to go spend time with other people who recognized his contributions, who recognized what a honorable and good man he was, truly according to those elements we just discussed. And it was right and healing and good that we all got to be there together. It was beautiful to hear his children's remarks about their remarkable father. And it was good to commune, as at least for me, the sort of closing feeling to PorcFest 2026, the 23rd annual Porcupine Freedom Festival, for all of us to sort of gather there together in a community gathering, in a heart moment together. So some lessons learned, some things I think we can do better, some things I really love that I will bring back, all of that from my perspective. Open invitation to anyone who contributed to the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year. We will be throwing a party here at Castle Quill. I can't wait to have everyone over to look you in the eyes coherently and thank you for your time and effort and contributions, for bringing your good and healthy energy to what we built for this last week. Let's take what we did and let's scale it up. Let's make it more awesome. Let's make the movement more awesome. And remember that this is the live free or die state, but it is also the live free and thrive movement. Thanks, guys. I'll see you guys sometime Wednesday. I have a guest for Wednesdays, the Independence. Catch me then. Bye.